It doesn't matter how many brigades stand on one direction if half of them not equipped. So you just lose a lot of people.
You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel. We're going to feel very good.
Feel influence.
We're going to feel very good and very strong.
You will feel influence.
You're right now not in a very good position.
Look, you have leadership, and I like him personally. He's fine. But I don't care about personally. I care about getting the job done.
Has Zelensky crossed the line from strategic diplomacy to manipulation? While Western allies initially rallied behind Ukraine's charismatic leader, recent developments have exposed growing frustration with his tactics. Today we're examining how Zelensky's casual attire, media-first approach, and challenging rhetoric toward Trump might be backfiring. As he prepares to meet King Charles, many are asking if his unconventional diplomatic style has united Western allies or driven wedges between them. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favour. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now, back to the video. Have you ever noticed how Zelensky never wears a suit? In a world where diplomatic meetings typically demand formal attire, Ukraine's president has created his own rulebook. That olive green t-shirt and cargo pants combo has become as recognizable as any designer suit on the world stage. But is this just about wartime practicality or something far more calculated? Traditional diplomacy has always been a game of formalities.
Artillery or drones, a lot of systems, armed vehicles, a lot of things, but anyway, the production in Europe now 3-4 times bigger.
He had no idea what he was doing. He said some very stupid things, like going in for portions and all of the things. He made a lot of bad statements, but he's grossly incompetent.
He broken this ceasefire. He killed our people, and he didn't exchange prisoners. We signed the exchange of prisoners, but he didn't do it.
Dark suits, polished shoes, and carefully choreographed handshakes. Yet there's Zelensky, strolling into number, 10 Downing Street looking like he's just stepped off the battlefield. This deliberate breaking of protocol creates an immediate visual tension that's impossible to ignore. When he stands beside suited world leaders, the contrast screams, "My country is at war while you live in comfort." This image manipulation works on multiple levels. For Western audiences, the military-style clothing serves as a constant, visceral reminder that Ukraine remains under attack. For Ukrainians, it signals that their president stands with the troops rather than hiding in luxury. The messaging is clear. This isn't a man concerned with appearances. This is a wartime leader focused on survival. But there's a fascinating linguistic layer to this story as well. In Ukrainian, the words for costume and suit share the same root: costume. This seemingly small detail may have contributed to misunderstandings with Trump, who reportedly expected Zelensky to dress more formally for their meetings.
Kind of diplomacy, JD, you are speaking about. What do you mean?
I'm talking about the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yeah,
America wasn't involved there, and I'm very hopeful that President Trump will not allow for such an agreement to just be a piece of paper.
And a long time before that, this could have been settled very easily. Just a half-baked negotiator could have settled this years ago.
Cultural nuances matter in high-stakes diplomacy, and clothing choices speak volumes. Zelensky's media-first approach represents a complete reversal of traditional diplomatic sequencing. Rather than holding private meetings before press conferences, he often addresses cameras first, framing narratives before closed-door negotiations even begin. This strategy creates opportunities to rally public support, but risks antagonizing leaders who expect discretion. European leaders have largely embraced Zelensky's unconventional style, with figures like Macron and Starmer adopting more casual approaches when meeting him. American officials, however, particularly those in Trump's orbit, have shown visible discomfort with what they perceive as theatrical tactics that bypass proper diplomatic channels. The critical question now looms: has Zelensky's casual diplomacy reached its expiration date? The strategy that initially unified Western support now risks appearing like a one-note performance to some key allies.
You have leadership now that's allowed a war to go on that should have never even happened, even without the United States. Look, we had a president who was grossly incompetent.
More strong on the battlefield. We will lose less people. It affects, we know it how it's going on. So we will lose less people and we will win.
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media.
As war fatigue grows among Western populations, the symbolic power of the T-shirt may be diminishing. Zelensky's confrontational approach to diplomacy reveals a high-stakes gamble that may have cost Ukraine dearly. While his casual attire breaks visual protocols, it's his habit of orchestrating public showdowns before private negotiations that truly endangers his diplomatic mission. This approach spectacularly backfired during his crucial meeting with Trump, creating a collision that transformed a potential ally into an adversary. When Zelensky publicly questioned Trump's ability to negotiate with Putin, suggesting that Trump's famed deal-making prowess would fail against a leader who regularly breaks agreements, he unknowingly crossed the most dangerous diplomatic line. For a man whose entire identity is built on being the ultimate deal-maker, Zelensky's challenge struck at the very core of Trump's self-image.
Putin is a war criminal and should be in jail for the rest of his life, if not executed.
Because Trump thinks that he wants peace, that Putin wants peace.
Well, I think I'm really disappointed in what's happened. I've been watching this for 3 years. It's a war that would have never happened if I was president. And
Right now, you guys are going around and forcing conscripts to the front lines because you have manpower problems.
The temperature in the room visibly dropped as Trump's expression hardened. What's particularly remarkable about this diplomatic miscalculation is how it contradicts established protocols. Traditionally, world leaders conduct substantive private discussions first, then appear before cameras to present a unified message. Zelensky reverses this sequence, prioritizing media visibility over confidential dialogue, ironically mirroring Trump's own preference for theatrical politics, yet somehow managing to alienate him in the process. The consequences became immediately apparent. While Zelensky desperately needed concrete military commitments, Trump's focus shifted to the media spectacle. This will make great TV. The Ukrainian leader found himself caught in a painful paradox. His media-savvy approach, so effective with other Western leaders, proved disastrously ineffective, with perhaps the one person who could most affect Ukraine's fate. The diplomatic community took notice. Keir Starmer's subsequent meeting with Zelensky featured public hugging and warm gestures that appeared deliberately designed as a counter-message to Trump's cold reception. This visual politics speaks volumes about the competing approaches to Ukraine's crisis on the global stage. The incident raises profound questions about whether Zelensky's challenging diplomatic style is appropriate for all audiences. Leaders with narcissistic tendencies typically respond better to flattery than confrontation. A psychological insight that appears absent from Zelensky's playbook.
You should be thanking the president for trying to bring an end to this conflict.
Have you ever been to Ukraine that you say what problems we have?
The negotiations should have started when Putin was building up troops along your border, and he was asked about it.
We waited too long. Now Russia began to move their jets from 100, 150 kilometers, 300 to 500.
While his directness and media acumen have secured support from many Western leaders, the Trump interaction exposed the limitations of this one-size-fits-all approach. Looking beyond the tactical missteps we've examined, we must recognize that Zelensky's unorthodox approach stems from genuine desperation rather than mere political calculation. His is the unenviable position of fighting not just for political advantage, but for his nation's very existence. The true challenge for Zelensky looms on the horizon. With American support potentially waning under new leadership, European powers will face mounting pressure to increase their financial commitments to Ukraine. This shift in the support dynamic will test the durability of Zelensky's diplomatic strategy like nothing before. His upcoming audience with King Charles represents far more than a ceremonial photo opportunity. It's a crucial platform for maintaining Ukraine's visibility at a precarious moment in international relations. Zelensky must somehow sustain global attention while delicately managing relationships with the very allies who hold Ukraine's fate in their hands. No amount of media savvy can overcome the fundamental reality that Ukraine's survival depends on continued Western support. Support that requires both tactical shrewdness and authentic connection with world leaders.